What's up, various fans? I'm Aaron over here at the Fat Shirtless Gardening Channel, where we're fat and shirtless all the time. I'm just kidding. Now, coming out here on the porch, I'll spare you the view my neighbors get of me. We got my succulent basket. We got a bit of some Cuban oregano started in the back. We got some aloe vera and various other ones. This one was a gift, so I don't really know too much of the classification. We have another fruiting cactus here, really similar to prickly pear or dragon fruit. This will produce a bloom that will eventually become a fruit. I have my 3 dragon fruits coming out here, busting out, looking good. We have our aloe veras. They've been suffering a little bit from the rain and the sun. You know, they're pouty, but they'll come back. Over here, I have my little hibiscus. There's an Estelle hibiscus in there and a few other President hibiscus, different colors, yellows, reds. We're just waiting on some blooms coming out from them. We have some English ivy as well as a Boston ivy. We have begonias. I got them because I wanted to say my begonias. Got some impatiens busting out and some pink jasmine. It was beautiful in the previous months, but it's kind of dormant and vining out right now. We'll get some trellising action going pretty soon. This is my coleus bed. Got the purple coleus and a couple other sun coleuses. These are part shade or full sun plants, and they'll kind of bush out eventually. This is the remnants of the sago palm, the dreaded sago palm. I hate it. It's venomous, or not venomous, sorry, it's poisonous to dogs and cats, and I just don't like it. We got some vincas from sale at Lowe's. It's pretty good. Got a little garden bed action out here. We got some sunflowers planted and a bunch of other native flowers grown in a row. And we got some vincas and some, I believe, petunias for in the meantime. Same thing over here. More or less, same thing. Now these bricks, these were a fun thing to do. It was really cheap from Lowe's. Maybe $30 for the whole setup and some dirt. Got my banana trees over here. Got a dwarf Cavendish and a dwarf Cavendish. Now you can kind of tell some of them have like this really awesome coloration to it. We have what I believe now is to actually be an Orinoco banana. These are really popular out in Florida, and they're decently cold hardy, and they're really widespread used in landscaping. We have a red banana over here. It's a semi kind of tropical. It's kind of grown in deeper, darker areas, and from what I understand, it does not actually fruit. Womp womp. And we have one of my favorites over here, my Barbados cherry. It's got some blooms popping right now, coming out. In a couple months, there will be some fruits on there that are super dark, like really glossy red, and they're not that great, to be honest. Food for the birds, fun for the pollinators. Got this twisted up mulberry up in the front. Now this was a volunteer. I'm sure a bird dropped a seed at some point. But, you know, I've just kind of decided to leave him be, except for whenever he comes over into the concrete over here, and I just kind of twist him up. He doesn't mind too much. Coming around the mountain when we come. We just have a few more plants over here. We have a little concrete pot, or not so little truly, full of elephant ears. We have a few lemon and key lime seedlings growing in there just for fun. Now that was filled with the remnants of the sago palm's fronds that died in the freeze. Just trying to use everything we can, use it all up. That's the name of the game, don't waste it. This is my Arbequina olive tree. So far it didn't bloom or anything this year, and it survived a lot of cold damage all the way down until when it was in the teens. So it's a really awesome tree. I see a lot of people use it as like a kind of topiary piece, like out in their yard and all that. And from what I understand, Texas uses these for a good amount of their local olive oil production. And these are just for fun. My Ebony Fire crepe myrtles. These will be busting out with some scarlet blooms eventually. Pretty metal. walking along, you'll probably see that got a lot of weeds and stuff in my yard. I preferred to keep all these leaves across the whole yard up until a couple months ago, just to boost our caterpillar population. I hear it's a good thing. We're gonna walk around the side, and you see all this nice stuff is just a facade. I am a stage 1 hoarder. I like to recycle everything I can, use what I can. I like things to be free or cheap as possible. We're just gonna come back here and get bit by a bunch of mosquitoes. We'll start with the nightshade bed. Boom, boom. This thing's busting out. We have eggplants coming out. We have full production of them coming out maybe every 2 or 3 days. We'll have ones about this size. So far, this is one of the bigger ones that we pulled off from it. And then we have various other species of plants in there. So what I allowed to happen was I let a lot of the birds, I put out some bird seed, and the birds did their work. You know, there's amaranth, and that's either corn or some other type of grass. And you know, it's really done well attracting butterflies and other pollinators. And yeah, these guys are crazy. They've just been popping off. They, unlike most other tomatoes, they really like the rain. And these, believe it or not, these tomatoes were almost all volunteers. Almost all of them. I did not plan to have a thicket like this. It just kind of ended up being this way. There is just a whole dense sort of little food forest going on here. But hey, you know, it's a fun experiment, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it'll all turn out. We got little tomatoes in there. Over here, here's one of the other plants I didn't actually mean to plant in there. This is a butternut squash. Let's see if we have a formed one. So this guy just deposited himself somewhere in the midst of all that, and it is just massive. It goes all the way to the fence. I broke off a piece and buried some all the way in the back corner over there, and it is large. I have this giant piece of plywood to kind of curb it from going into my yard. And yep, we have this. Look at it going. It goes all the way across to my melon bed. It's busting out. We have some rosemary and lavender over here. That's the rosemary, lavender. We got some dill, sage. These were from my previous year's garden. I had an all container garden. Everything I have right now is a culmination of years of work from other people and myself, and I just feel really glad that I get to enjoy all the benefits of it right now. Yeah, you see the butternut climbing up in the back. Yeah, these were endive and arugula, and I believe an okra plant that just popped up in there. We have a Malabar spinach. They're mainly for the pollinators. Endive is just much too bitter for me, and I mean the arugula just instantly bolts right now, but it was a really good winter crop to have, especially right after the freeze. It was one of the first things to start blooming, getting those bees fed. We have some tomatillos that popped out of my friend's yard over here. Moving on to the melon bed. Went ahead and transplanted these. This bed is hugelkultured. It's years old logs and leaves and all that, covered with just bits of compost everywhere, interspersed. And I cover these with coffee grounds every couple weeks and let that break down. It really adds a lot of organic matter and nutrients to the soil. Fun stuff. Got a sugar baby watermelon right there in the back. We have cucamelon starts, impossible to see, I'm sure. And then of course we have a Kawano melon, more Malabar spinach, and then these are a perennialized arugula. They're dying from the heat, but coming back. They're sitting in some clay on the edge of this bed, and it maintains a little bit more moisture than the inner part, and I'm hoping they'll come back. Over here you're gonna see some of my little citrus project. I'm gonna step up in here. Pomelos, got some papayas. We have key limes, Meyer lemons, sour oranges, a lot of big kid trees. These are almost all about a year old. Yep, I mulch each pot with a little blend that I've been working on, and all my favorites, I guess, they get little green onions to help stave off some spider mites. I understand that might be a thing. We're gonna step over this vine and try and hop into the nightshade bed a bit. Look at that. So I did intend to just have peppers mainly with 1 or 2 tomato plants, but the compost I used and the dirt that I inherited from a couple friends of mine actually, they had other plans. I definitely did. So there's just this thicket of tomatoes and everything else. But hey, my pekins are doing good. I got a nice poblano plant jumping up in the back. I have a couple bell peppers as well, and all of these were actually overwintered from last year. I kept them in little pots, stuffed them in my old little greenhouse, and we prayed. And it came out all right. Coming down, trying not to slide. We're gonna look at the citrus hedge. Eventually it will be one. We'll start with this thing right here. This is gonna be a future grafting project. I have little buds finally growing out of it after, gosh, 3 months or so since the freeze. This used to be a century or a centennial kumquat. Now I believe it's a sour orange. Or, I mean, it could have been a kumquat, but from what I understand, there was a graft around this area, and you know, those don't grow true to seed or anything like that with the rootstock. It's not going to be a kumquat, or sorry, true to the scion. And of course, a little side note, got this chaya tree. Both of these guys took 14 degrees, y'all, like, or 9 degrees even. I think one of the days it was so cold, and these were covered in snow, and I had no hope for them. I thought these were my 2 casualties, but lo and behold, months later they're back. This is going to be a Tarraco blood orange. Look at this boy. It's magnificent. Green onions in it for spider mite protection. Fun stuff. We got my red Valencia. It had defoliated earlier, months prior, due to a spider mite infestation, but this nice new dark green growth is really promising. It had bloomed along with this one, which was my Caracara red navel orange. Both of them had said fruit, but at the beginning of this last month, there was so much rain that it just dropped everything, and I don't know. Here's to hoping it might bloom again. No telling. This is a pomegranate. I'm going to have a few other trees interspersed with everything. Persian lime. This is one that just recently dropped the fruit it had on it. Yeah, one of these little tiny $20 deals from Lowe's. Lowe's is a good spot to get some trees from, just because they have a nice warranty. As long as you keep the original pot, you can kind of give them back if they have too many problems. Here's one. It's been really finicky, but it's blooming. It's doing well. This is my red grapefruit. See these blooms. These are so fragrant, y'all. If you ever get a chance to smell fresh citrus blooms, like, you'll know what I'm talking about. Moving on over to this attractive beast over here. Another finicky one too is my variegated pink Eureka lemon. It's got little lemons on it, holding strong. A few of them have been falling off and turning yellow. This is normal. I think like only 5% of all the flowers set fruit, and you know, those, I mean, anything can happen. Usually it's the rain. From what I understand with citrus, they want consistent watering. These are going to be little citrus seedlings and avocado seedlings, apparently. I like to just kind of shove things where I can. We use what we can. Let's see. This is a neem tree I got from a buddy of mine out in Lockhart. This guy has awesome trees. He's who I got my Tarocco from, as well as a, let's see, various other trees, to be honest. Like, I'll probably mention him a couple other times in the video. Let's see, I have my kumquat here, and this is a Meiwa kumquat. It's going to be one of the smaller, sweeter ones. The fruit set on this one was nuts. It just kept blooming and blooming and blooming, all while being in my greenhouse during the freeze, and what a star. It smelled so good. And I guess it's just taking a break now and putting on huge new boughs and foliage, which is fine. I kind of like the bushy look that it's putting off. This is my Thai lime with fruit. I have about 9 of these guys all around the tree, just kind of hidden. And yeah, it's actually still blooming too, and you can kind of see a little bit of pinkness in them. Supposedly that's anthocyanin to protect it from the sun. And this is one of my older trees. You can see it's got a way thicker base compared to like the kumquat or any of the other trees. And this one, yeah, it's about 3 years old, and this is about when they start setting fruit really well. And those that are going to be younger and in their first couple of years, I mean, you don't expect much out of them. Here's my fig tree. Figgy Azalea, as I like to call her. She's busting out. And we have a little cutting. That's a Chicago Hardy. And this one is another fig cutting. And that's going to be another brown turkey. And yeah, Figgy Azalea is a brown turkey fig. She was awesome during the heat last year. Just did not quit. Kept doing everything she needed to do. Busting out, growing, plenty of foliage all the way up until the last freeze. Had 1 leaf. And then she dropped it like a couple weeks after, and then just exploded. Love figs. Really satisfying tree to grow in Texas. This is a Calamondan. Excuse the ghetto safe work. We have had winds upwards of like 20 miles an hour. So the fruit set on this one is crazy. Way more than the Thai lime, and it's a much younger tree. I believe that's due to it being a hybrid of mandarins and kumquats. I was talking about the kumquat earlier, had nice fruit set. One of my favorite trees right here. Moro Blood Orange. Got this one from Home Depot. Made the trip down to New Braunfels. Look at that. All these guys that are made from cuttings and all that. I noticed that they tend to act just like a single branch on a tree. It's really interesting. Makes me want to get into bonsai. This is my favorite one from my buddy Ron John and Lockhart. Yep, this is a Buddha's Hand Citron. These are the most fragrant flowers. They're so beautiful. And then those are eventually supposed to turn into little praying hands. This is another one that fell victim to the weeks of rain we've had back to back, and a lot of the fruit set has just kind of dropped off. But as long as I keep seeing that new growth, I don't care. It's doing good. So yeah, these are some avocados that I've grown from seed. You know, I try and do everything as free and cheap as possible. This was trash. I work at a sorority house, and avocado toast is really popular, and we ordered a case just about every week, and shoot, I mean, that's 40 or so potential trees. My germination rate is actually pretty high, and I like to dry off the seeds, and I like put them in water for about a week to let them ferment off and scrub them off. They have a little peel on them, and you can kind of take that off, and it seems to help them kind of germinate faster. And yeah, once they poke a little root out, I'll just put them in a little pot like this, and just after a while, you know, you just got to ignore them and they take off. This is one of my first ones over here. It's a real thick boy. And I really like this one. It's a double tree and they don't seem to be harming each other too much. A little bit of chlorosis issues from my watering, but not too bad. And this guy, beefy guy. So strong. I really like avocado trees. They, take a number of months, but they're pretty cool. Over here, in the middle table, we have, I kind of call this quarantine, just because it's separate from most things in the garden, and I just put them here, like all my newer plants. I like to spray them and take care of them before they get into general population. These are loquats. It's going to be a fruit-bearing tree years down the line. They do really well out here in Texas. Pretty cold hardy, down to about 20 degrees. Call that an Asian pear, Asian plum, I believe. So yeah, you might be seeing some of these stuffed around. Those are going to be a member of the Coleus family. It's a Cuban oregano. I'm trying to propagate these, and as far as I can tell, it's the easiest thing I've ever tried to propagate. Got some flowers. Always thinking about my pollinators. Ashwagandha. Cuban oregano. Various flowers and tomatoes. I plan to give these as like gifts to friends. Yep. This bed was one of the first ones I installed. It's actually made from an old homemade bed frame that I had this for years and years as a kid, and I cannot think of a better use for it now. So yeah, this is a volunteer tomato plant that popped up out of the ground, just right out of the compost I was using. These were the volunteer tomatillos my friends gave me, and they really established themselves. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I keep them in pairs. From what I understand, that's just necessary for good fruit production. And here was the intended locus of this bed. Is a few months ago I direct seeded lemon cucumbers and bush cucumbers, straight 8 variety, I believe. And yeah, we got a couple of vines busting out. I'll have a hog panel trellis coming up, but I'm kind of liking these natural thicket designs that come with this. We have bush beans, and they have been producing. I don't know if you saw on the table. I'll run back over there real quick. We had a decent amount. That's just from this week. A fun little snack while you're out in the garden. This is just a flower bed. I used to take a bunch of food waste from work, just potato skins and onion peels and stuff like that, and I figured cover it with whatever wet cardboard you have and whatever fill dirt you can find, and it's okay. I actually have a volunteer potato plant that I mounted up with some nicer, cleaner compost up on top, and yeah, just sprouted up out of the ground. Potatoes are very vigorous. This one is a squash plant of sorts. I believe it's a pumpkin. And that one I didn't necessarily intend to plant there, but it's alright. I just let it go with the flow. These were other flower beds. Always thinking about my pollinators. Gotta get them something nice. Get them something nice. These are from my last year's container garden. I kept bunches of green onions, and all of these were recycled from work. A lot of times, like, you would be surprised how little of a scrap of green onion you can grow things from. We have some basil, Thai basil, and cardinal basil. These are 2 Bacchino pepper plants that I got from a friend, and I'm really excited about those. They have a smoky kind of flavor and a really interesting shape, like a kind of a teardrop, little cherry tomato. This is a little propagation pot. For this, the Cuban oregano, look at it. It's so awesome. This thing is so great. And like I said, it's a member of the Coleus family, even though it's called oregano. It's so pungent. So good. And like literally, I could take that leaf, throw it in some dirt, and more likely than not, it would totally propagate and turn into another plant. I'm serious. Easy plant. Got Greek oregano, Italian oregano. We have chocolate mint and spearmint. They have hybridized in this thing. This is from last year's container garden, and I mean, I cannot tell the difference anymore. This is my berry bed, or it was intended to be a berry bed. I have one little strawberry plant here, and another right there. We have basil popping out. And then these dewberries were actually all across this bed when I first moved in. And they're a native raspberry species or blackberry species, and so I had the idea to get this loganberry, and it's a natural hybrid in the same family, and so supposedly it'll do really well and might hybridize, and I feel like it'd be a fun project just to keep in this little area. That is a blueberry plant. These are also some blueberry plants. Now, these are being affected by a bit of rust. Various plants kind of have rust, and they transmit it to each other. It's like an airborne mold, I believe, in this case. And it's stubborn, but it doesn't affect the plant's growth too hard. But yeah, it does not seem to do too well for your fruit production, though. Really, really limits it. I might have one or two berries. Haha, little berry. It's probably for the birds. Now these potatoes I planted months ago, and I figured for this video I can go ahead and reach down and we'll see what we got. See if we have anything. Yeah, looks like we got some new potatoes. Little boys. I'll come get these later. Oh, and you'll see I have avocado seeds everywhere. Just wherever there's dirt, wherever it's moist, I'll stick one. It takes months, and you know, this is a cutting. It's a Santa Rosa plum. Look at that. This is the only cutting I've been successful with, and I'm really proud of it. It was just this tiny little twig at first, and it defoliated a bunch of times, but it's come back, and it really has enjoyed like everything I've thrown at it. This is a Cavendish banana pup. Same as the one in the front. The one in the front had about 6 pups in it, and yeah, I mean, like, you just split them off like a little tuber, and you'd be surprised. Like, they are really susceptible to mold, but they really do want to live. They have very vigorous tendencies. This is a pecan that I've attempted to grab. Its taproot is all the way in there. Its taproot must have been about 6 feet long, and we'll see. This is a cherimoya. They're about a year old. They've fallen victim to squirrels. They put oak seedlings in the pots, and you know, you'll get a big old oak tree absorbing all your nutrients, and that's no fun. So over here we're going to see one of my horror stories that you kind of deal with while you're out here in Texas. This is my bush zucchini. It's a golden variety, and it's barely hanging on. It does have a little bit of new growth, but it's losing all of its nutrients. Squash vine borers are a type of grub thing and they alien style get inside the tube of your plant and just eat it up. And pumpkins are a little bit more resistant to it, but as you can see, they munch it up. BT or neem oil seems to be pretty effective at keeping them away from it. And yeah, as you can see, my pumpkin is still alive. I trellis it over this tree with some wire and all that. I was planning to have it go all the way up, but since the borers started attacking it, I figured it would be best to get some runners in the ground. But yeah, it's a big boy. This has been really fun. Squash are really rewarding. Not too many squash off of them. This is a curry leaf tree. These leaves are so fragrant. From what I understand, it is not curry unless you have a curry leaf in there to finish it off. Baobab trees. That's this one and this one. This one's been a little finicky, but it's coming back. Chocolate trees. This is a Theobroma plant. This is my more vigorous one. This is one that's defoliated. They really like varying levels of sunlight. I mean, this one was probably doing the best inside, and now it doesn't like life at all. Here we have another one. And you'll see I have beans, little bush beans and other kinds just kind of interspersed through here. This is a pot full of flowers and a citrus tree. That's their main intention. Sunflowers busting out. Get another shot of the squash bed from the front. Fun stuff, y'all. Yeah. Little pecan seedlings. More seedlings. All from fruit I've eaten or got from work.